100,000 residents in the city. They had been shutting off water for years, but nowhere on this scale.
Welcome, welcome. We are back again, beloved community, with yet another installment of the People's Water Board Coalition's Water Wednesdays webcast. As always, I am here with my beloved co-host, Valerie Jean.
Hi, everyone.
And we cannot forget our behind-the-scenes tech guru extraordinaire, Miss Angelica, who keeps us running smoothly week after week consistently. And today, people, we have a very special guest. He's here to talk to us about an issue that has been occurring for some time, but in this day and age, it seems to be getting worse and worse and more imminent. We have Mr. Kevin Camps. He is a radioactive waste specialist with Beyond Nuclear. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Camps.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I know that you've dedicated your entire life to this work, and having you here to talk about it's super important to us and to our listeners. People have been asking about nuclear waste and how, all of these reactors that they're going to be turning back on that have been sitting for a long time.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump right in. It's a short show, and we got a lot to cover. Could you share with our viewers the history of the Palisades nuclear reactor located along the Lake Michigan shoreline in southwest Michigan?
Yeah, sure. So, just for starters, I'm sitting in downtown Kalamazoo, so I apologize for any background noise, but we are 35 miles immediately downwind to the east from Palisades, which is located in Covert Township, Van Buren County, near South Haven. They designed the Palisades atomic reactor in the mid 1960s. They broke ground in 1967. It took 4 years to build the reactor. They fired up in 1971. It was a lemon from the get-go. There was a lawsuit by Consumers Power at the time against the company that built the plant, Bechtel. It was a $300 million lawsuit, which is a lot of money in 1971 because it was such a lemon, brand new. They settled for a much smaller amount, fired up the reactor, had a very bad track record in the 1970s. They only had about a 50% capacity factor, which means they only ran about half the time they had promised to. And then, unfortunately, they've kept running up until 2022. I call it a zombie reactor. They've never restarted a closed reactor. We dodged so many radioactive bullets over the decades. They had a very troubled operational record after Fukushima in 2011, which led to a groundswell of resistance again. There's been resistance the whole time, since before construction in 1967. But after 2011, 2012, when Palisades had some very serious incidents, people who'd never been involved before jumped in. We've been fighting it ever since. Unfortunately, the original license was supposed to expire first in 2007, after 40 years, 1967 to 2007. Then in 2011, because they got a 4-year mini extension, we fought them hard to prevent a 20-year extension to 2031. That's the license they claim to hold right now, out to 2031. They want to go to 2051 if they can restart the zombie reactor. And I'll just close by saying the history of the last 60 years of Palisades includes many of these systems that are vital to safety getting so old that they're at the brink of breakdown. There's about 6 major safety systems at Palisades, any one of which that breaks down could lead to a reactor core meltdown. And we can talk more about what the consequences of that would be.
That is thoroughly frightening to hear. I'm just imagining, because I've noticed that most of the reactors are sitting along waterways, just imagining the damage it would cause as it travels downstream to more and more areas where the reactor's not even located. But
And in
could you,
Kalamazoo, where they've already been extremely harmed by energy
yes,
practices and from
yes,
the largest oil spill
absolutely,
in American
absolutely.
history. Indeed.
Could you tell us some of the immediate risks that are associated with the restart of the Palisades reactor, and why is it even being considered when it wasn't deemed safe or, workable from the beginning?
Right. And I should hasten to add, I mean, we talk a lot about the risks of a reactor core meltdown, which has not happened at Palisades, but some famous ones that people may have heard of. I already mentioned Fukushima Daiichi in Japan in 2011. That was a triple meltdown. 3 reactors melted down. Chernobyl in the Ukraine in 1986 is considered the worst reactor catastrophe in US history. But there have been other ones, 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania, Fermi Unit 1 in southeastern Michigan in
Yeah.
1966, and the list goes on. But people haven't entirely missed the bullet. So, Covert Township, Van Buren County, is a very large percentage of the population is African American. There's a rich African American cultural history in this township that goes all the way back to the Underground Railroad. There's I believe, a majority of the population, at least a very high percentage, that also lives in low income. So the environmental justice aspects of this story can't be overstated. And there is cancer reported on the lakeshore, both childhood cancer and adult cancer. In fact, the immediate neighbors of Palisades, it's called the Palisades Park Country Club. It's a resort community of about 200 cottages. It's 120 years old. They report 50 thyroid cancers, 50 thyroid cancers in their community, which is a part-time community. Most people are only there in the warm weather. Peak summertime population of around 2 to 3,000. There should not be a single thyroid cancer in that community. It's a very rare disease. So the likely culprit is Palisades, and this disease epidemic is being ignored by the federal government, the state government. So all of that is from past operations, past
Heartbreaking.
radioactive releases into the environment. You asked about the immediate risks. The good news is the reactor's not been operating since May 20th of 2022. The problem is they plan to restart it. They say by October of this year. To do that would be taking very extreme safety risks. The issue that's getting the most attention right now are what are called steam generators. It's a heat transfer component, but it has a direct pathway to the reactor core. It was already severely degraded, if you can believe this, by the year 2006. The previous owner, Consumers Energy now, told the Michigan Public Service Commission, we really need to replace the steam generators. And by the way, we don't want to spend that kind of money, so we're going to sell the plant, which they did to Entergy, which ran it from 2007 to 2022. Never replaced the steam generators because this captured
It's
federal
just an accident
agency
waiting to
called the Nuclear
happen.
Regulatory Commission
Absolutely.
didn't require it and is still not requiring it.
And they're the ones that are
Palisades made
supposed to
matters much.
protect
I'm
us.
sorry, Holtec, who now owns Palisades, made matters worse
Yeah.
by neglecting safety maintenance. When they got a hold of it in 2022, they didn't do safety maintenance for 2 years, even though our expert witness, Arnie Gunderson, warned them if you plan on restarting this reactor, you have to maintain the steam generators. They did not do so. The corrosion accelerated. Now, this critical safety issue is so much worse now. But as I mentioned, there's other ones out there, any one of which breaks down. We could have a reactor core meltdown on the Lake Michigan shoreline. They want to start
Horrific.
taking those extreme risks this October. I call it radioactive Russian roulette,
Yeah.
and they want to start putting more bullets in the chambers of these of this gun that they're playing around with.
And that's not it, right? That's not just it. Like they have to store once they start this back up. They have to store the nuclear waste, right? The water and all of those things that become contaminated, right?
Not the radioactive waste has piled up at Palisades since initial operations in 1971. There's different categories, but the one that gets the most attention is the highly radioactive waste, the irradiated nuclear fuel, and that is stored on site. 2/3 of it still in the indoor wet storage pool. That could lose its cooling and go up in flames, and that would be a mega catastrophe. It
Yeah.
almost happened at Fukushima Daiichi Unit 4. It was averted through sheer luck. To give people an idea of how bad a pool fire could be, the Prime Minister of Japan, who was serving at the time, Naoto Kan, admitted later that he had a secret contingency plan to evacuate 35 to 50 million people from northeastern Japan, Metro Tokyo, if the Unit 4 pool had caught on fire. There's more waste in the Palisades pool than there was in Unit 4 at Fukushima. So there's the risk of the pool fire. The overflow parking is outdoor dry cask storage. That's been controversial at Palisades since it first started in 1993. It's actually in violation of earthquake safety regulations because they built the dry cask storage on the sand dunes with 55 feet of loose sand underneath. It's not anchored to anything. Even a mild
Mm.
earthquake could open up the beach. The lake could fill the void. The high level radioactive waste containers could fall into Lake Michigan. There's enough fissile material in the waste that you could even have an inadvertent chain reaction on the bottom of Lake Michigan. And then
God.
if they ever get away with shipping the waste out, as dangerous as it is where it's at, they want to open the world's largest radioactive waste dump in southeastern New Mexico, which is a majority minority state,
Yeah.
majority Latinx and indigenous population. That's where Holtec
Those
wants to
people
take
don't
not
matter as
only
far as
its
they're
own
concerned.
waste, but that from other companies around the country. They would use barges on Lake Michigan for Palisades waste, barge it up to Muskegon, put it on a train, bring it back through Michigan out west. Wisconsin reactors want a barge. There may be other reactors on the Great Lakes that want a barge. That is extremely high risk shipments of high level radioactive waste. We call it mobile Chernobyl. We call it floating Fukushima. Those are some of the waste risks.
Does it seem to be a running theme that you see these reactors placed in areas in near communities where they deem these people, how should I say, dispensable?
I mean, that's the thing, right? You know, that these kinds of projects go into prominently people of color communities. As
Exactly.
far as the whole system goes, those people don't matter. And that's the
How can people learn more and get involved?
Yeah, I'd say our website, which is www.beyondnuclear.org, is the best place to go for information on Palisades. We have an environmental coalition, but Beyond Nuclear is kind of taking the lead on
great.
website posts. And if you just put nightmare into the search engine at www.beyondnuclear.org, it takes you
Of
to a
course.
Palisades nuclear nightmare section. Every single post going back 3 years, because it's been 3 years ago now that Governor Whitmer floated the trial balloon of restarting Palisades after it shut down, which is unprecedented. They've never
Yeah.
done this before.
Yeah.
And also, Holtec CEO Krishna Singh first floated building so called small modular reactors at Palisades. So we learned 3 years ago, right now in 2022, that the decommissioning of Palisades was off the table. That was all a lie. They really meant to restart it. They really need to build more reactors there to increase all these risks. So, our framing to try to communicate this issue concisely is the restart is unprecedented. It's insanely expensive for the public. It's very high risk and it's unneeded. And just another word on the expense. Right now we're looking at $16 billion, $16 billion going from the public to Holtec and Palisades. About half for the restart, about half for two so-called small modular reactors, which are not so
Our
small. They're
tax
going to
dollars are
double the
going to
nuclear
that.
megawattage on that site,
Exactly.
make the risk of domino effect meltdowns possible, like at Fukushima Daiichi. These 300 megawatt each small modular reactors are 4.5 times bigger than Fermi 1. We almost lost Detroit at Fermi 1 in 1966. They're also four and a half
Yeah,
times bigger than Big Rock Point up north near Charlevoix, which had one of the worst records of releasing hazardous radioactivity into the environment of any reactor in the country, despite its very small size.
And given our money is going to the corporations to pay for this nightmare, like you said, a nightmare.
Yeah, the amount of bailouts going from the public to Holtec at Palisades is mind-boggling. It's $16 billion, $16 billion, about half for the restart of the old reactor, the other half for these two small modular reactors of 300 megawatts each. That's a lot of money. And it's money that's not really going to solve the climate crisis, not anytime soon. I mean, who knows if they can restart the old reactor,
absolutely.
whatever the risk, anytime soon. The small modular reactor is not for at least 5 years, probably much longer. We could be building renewables much quicker, much more cost effectively, and yet they're robbing $16 billion, mostly from federal taxpayers, but also from state taxpayers, and also from ratepayers on their electric bills, rural ratepayers. So
Absolutely.
it's a
Makes me
real
so mad.
legalized robbery of public money.
It is, and people all over Michigan can't afford their water, but they're going to pay. Our money's going
Or
to go
their
towards
utility,
that.
their utility,
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
because they've increased consistently the rates of the electricity as well.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, I know that you're having a hard time with your technology, so I'm going to wrap us up, but thank you so very much, Kevin, for dedicating your life to this work.
Yes.
And
being a watchdog.
yes, and our viewers, look, you've got your marching orders. He told you where you could go to learn more, and what organization that you can join to join the fight, because this is a
Our
tragedy.
lives.
Yeah,
It's our
it is
lives.
life or death. This is a tragedy, and it's going to take all of us to address it, if it's even possible to address it. But at least keep this one reactor
Or at
from
least try to
from starting
mitigate
back
it.
up.
If we can't eradicate it,
That's
we
right.
want to mitigate.
That's right. Thank you again, Kevin. Thank you, Nicole, for always going on this journey with me. To our viewers, these are hard conversations, but it's time that we start having them with our families, our communities, have contingent plans, what that even looks like, and get organized, because we get what we're organized to take, my friends. Until next time, take care of each other, my friends, and stay afloat.